Welcome to the OCall podcast. Today I have Nick here with me. He's going to talk about his experience going through IBOLC. So then, Nick, do you have any recommendations to give to individuals that are getting ready to go to IBOLC?
Yeah, so very first one, and the primary reason people fail.
In this video, you're going to learn what to expect in each phase, why people get recycled, and get some recommendations on how to prepare for IBOLC.
Yeah, so once you commission and you get your report date for IBOLC at Fort Moore, you'll show up and process. It's a 19-week long course just to go over the basics of being an infantry officer.
All right, and the course is, I've heard it's 3 phases. You got, individual team, small unit, and then platoon. Can you tell me a little bit more about phase 1?
In this phase, they're going to go over the doctrine of being an infantryman and a platoon leader. It's also going to work on, ACFT, M4 qual, land nav, all those individual soldier tasks.
I'm assuming just like all TRADOC courses or institutions, you're going to have a bunch of PowerPoints, death by PowerPoint, briefs, all those cool things to look forward to.
Yeah.
But after all of that not so cool stuff, what can you tell me about the land nav?
Land nav, honestly, was one of the longest weeks during my IBOLC experience. We walked
Forever.
You're probably going to walk about 70 miles during land nav, or at least I did. And it's all week long. You stay out there, and you'll start off with buddy team, and then you'll go down to individual day and night. And if you haven't been down to Georgia, they have banana spiders, which are like
they're gigantic,
yellow spiders that are like this big. And for some reason, they always seem to be right in your path. Especially at night. And then you have hogs out there.
Yeah.
You have hogs out there that will chase you. And yeah, so they definitely chased a couple people out of the land nav course that night too.
And they probably got lost because then they lost like where they were at and all that.
Yeah. Some people will throw their stuff down, throw their maps down, which is a no-go.
You didn't tie it down?
No, that's another thing. Tie everything down when you go out there. Yeah, so they'll lose stuff and run away, which is always just a funny story. So.
Yeah, I would recommend if you're walking through and you're scared of banana spiders, have like a stick or something that you could just like put in front of you to like catch that thing before it catches you.
Yeah, that's what I did. I walked with a stick in front of me at night. So you might look like an idiot, but it's nighttime. No one's going to see you, and it's better than having a giant spider on your face. So.
And then what about weapons qual? Is it just, like you said, M4, M17, or do you any other kind of weapons quals?
Yeah, so everyone will at least qual on their M4, and then your whoever is your 249 and 240 gunners, they will go qual on the 249 and 240s.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep, and that's because later when you're doing the platoon live fire and stuff, they need to be qualified on those weapon systems.
So I have the course map for IBOLC. In there, it says something about the night infiltration course, like the Nick at Night. Did you have to do that at all?
So no, not when I went through. All infantry privates go through it during their basic training, and when I left, a new battalion commander took command and added that to the course. So now all infantry officers go through Nick at Night too. It is it's a cool experience. You'll be crawling through a field basically with some sea wire over you. You crawl out of a trench and they're shooting 240s over your head.
Yeah, so when I did this, it was way back in the day when I was enlisted military police before I commissioned. It was raining like crazy the night that we did it, and going under the barbed wire, I would actually have to like go underwater in some portions.
Yeah.
And like by the time you get, like I don't remember how far it was, like maybe a football field in length, it felt like. Mm-hmm. The ground was frozen. I went at like winter, so you feel like you're getting all cut up with the rocks and ice.
Yeah.
You get all the way over there, there's like explosions, the 50 cal, they have some like tracers maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember too, the cadre or like drill sergeants back then, they did it with us too, and they made sure we had to have all of our stuff cleaned the very next day. So you get done with all of that stuff, like your night wasn't over. You still had to like clean your stuff.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it for phase 1. Moving on to phase 2 is a small unit. So what can you tell me about that?
So this is where you're going to work on your team and squad sized tactics and and maneuver. So we did a fire team live fire in the middle of a hurricane, mind you. And if you go in the fall, expect to get hit by a hurricane, and training does not stop just because it's raining. So get ready for that.
Well, if it ain't raining.
Yeah, you know the rest. And when you do your squad stuff, it's just basic squad battle drills. At something you're probably all familiar with coming from ROTC and coming out of advanced camp.
So that's like the TLP portion, I'm guessing. In our notes, we have more gun stuff. If you like more gun stuff, then hit the like button.
That's a fun week. That's
okay.
A fun week.
So it says weapon densities in week 7.
Yeah. So that's when you're going to get your, become familiar with the 240, 50, and mark, and you'll just go to the range.
So shoot some shit.
Just shoot some shit. Yeah.
Did you guys have to do any like noob tube, like the M320, 203, any of that?
Yeah. So you'll get experience just shooting chalk rounds.
Okay.
They might have a couple, maybe live, 320 rounds at a couple people.
Nice.
Couple lucky people will shoot.
Like any AT4s, Claymores, any of that stuff?
Yeah, same thing for that. A couple people got to shoot AT4s while we were there. One of them was a international student. If you didn't know, there will be international students in your company, probably platoon, and they come from all over.
So right around this time, you're going to be doing the HPDT, or the high demand physical testing. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so that's just to make sure, really, that you can help your buddy out and perform basic tasks that would be expected in the infantry or any combat arms branch. Mm-hmm. So, if I remember correctly, there was a grenade throw. You had to transport some sandbags from point A to point B, and then there was it was like 200 pounds, I think, or something, or 180. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
I'll put it down in the little thing.
Yeah.
If
But you have to pull them out of a simulated Humvee turret.
Yeah, so I did this during IBOLC, and in addition to the throwing grenades, sandbags, lifting somebody out of a turret, keep in mind you're doing all of this in like full battle rattle.
Yes.
We also had to transport tank rounds, load them into the tube, and do a bunch of extra activities.
So the fire team live fire, obviously you and 3 others, and you're just working on the communication aspect really, and you'll do a nighttime portion too. I had never done a night live fire until I got to IBOLC, and it was honestly a fun experience, and it only grows from there when you do squad and platoon.
So during night, I'm assuming you're using nods and infrared lasers?
Yeah, so you'll have your PVS 14s and then your PEC 15, and you'll do a familiarization with those with that equipment before you step off.
And then during this phase, you're going to have a couple ruck marches, right?
Yes. So prepare to ruck to all the training and ranges.
Okay.
We rucked a ton. It's early mornings. You show up super early, and then you walk. You walk there.
So this is technically in addition to like the 4, 6, and 8 mile ruck march that most TRADOC things will have you do?
Yes. We definitely did a lot more rucking than just say 4, 6, and 8.
Okay. And then did you have to do like an RPA during this time as well?
Oh, in my IBOLC, or for my IBOLC experience, we did not do an RPA until the very end.
Okay.
Around the 5 mile. In the new course, the way it's laid out, I think you take a couple RPAs throughout.
Okay, cool. And then you're doing a bunch of different op wards now in this phase?
Yes. So we had a couple weeks dedicated to op wards. But for this new structure, you definitely do a lot more op wards.
Okay. Do you have anything like products templates or anything in general that would help someone successfully conduct these op wards, or the briefings at least?
Yeah, so I would say a battle board. That would help with the briefing aspect of it with overlays.
Little battle board right here.
Got a cool one right there, yeah. And those come in handy sometimes in the field too. you're definitely going to get a more in-depth look at IBOLC than what you're probably used to for ROTC and in cadet land.
Yeah. Did you ever have any exposure to like graphics during planning your op boards before getting to Bullock, or is this like the first time you saw like the McCoo, the ops layovers, and all that stuff?
Yeah, so this was the first time I'd seen any of that, and
Surprise.
yeah. And when you're seeing it for the first time, it is a lot. It's a lot to process, and then making those connections between how you would do op orders in RTC, which was very brief and just wave top stuff.
Yeah.
And then you're doing it in IBOLC, and it's getting into the nitty gritty of everything. You're like, whoa! It turns out there's a lot more to it than just
Like
RTC.
a simple flip.
Yeah,
But now you have like 4 hours to rush through and get as much as the stuff you can. Do like the train analysis, do the enemy sit temp, like the courses of action, just your like events and all
Yeah.
that stuff, throwing it all together, and then flipping like throwing that stuff into your own op board that you then brief afterwards in that like 4 hour block. So I'm assuming it's four. That's how it was in ABOLC anyways.
If I remember correctly, I think.
So then phase 3 is platoon ops. What can you tell me about some of those operations you'll be doing there?
Yeah, so you'll go out to do platoon ops, and you'll just do basic patrolling as platoon, which is it was actually really nice coming out of ROTC, where not everyone is infantry oriented, but then you're there with guys who want to be there, and
Oh, that's fair.
yeah, so things actually kind of run pretty smooth, even though you're in the basic course. So you do your platoon ops. The first platoon ops, your cadre is working very close with the platoon leader and squad leaders to make sure everyone understands what's going on. During our platoon ops 1, we were down a cadre member, so the way their shifts were working out, they were stretched then. And one night we were still in a patrol base. We were just 33% security, low threat night. But there were other platoons who had a fully, staffed cadre, and they're somewhere else out in the training area, but we just heard them all night, all night getting messed up, and they'd come running by, all of them, all 40 of them, just running on the road in front of us, and we're just like on security, just like, man, that sucks for them. But yeah, they didn't get much sleep that night, so also could be you, so be prepared. Then you'll do defensive ops, which is a week long. My recommendation for this week would be to volunteer as a squad leader or RTO, platoon sergeant, or PL.
Because if not, you're digging holes.
Yeah, you're going to be digging holes, and you're going to be digging all of the battle positions to standard, and then you have to fill them in. And there's not enough shovels to go around, so some of you will be digging with your e-tools.
Your combat tactical MRE spoons.
Yeah, with your spoons. That was late October, I think, for me. And if you have never been down to Georgia in the winter and you think just because you're in the South it doesn't get cold,
no, it literally gets freezing.
You're wrong.
Yeah.
It's cold, and I almost froze that week. Not literally, but I was freezing at night. I didn't get good sleep that week because I only brought a bivvy. So,
well, it's also humid there, so like when it's humid and freezing, like yeah, it gets cold.
yeah.
Do you have to use the bathrooms in those holes?
Yeah, so you'll dig your
slit trench.
Your slit trench, and that's where you're going to go. So, at the end of that week too, your defense is fully set up as best as it can. And, your platoon leader, whoever that is, has done EA development, and then at the end of the week, they'll pull another platoon to come attack you. And you'll get to see how your defense and EA development actually plays out, and then you'll get to go do the same to some other platoon in your company. It's a lot of fun. Having some SOPs in place and discussed prior to this week would be very beneficial.
And then up next is mounted maneuver. What's that about?
One of the best weeks in IBOLC, to be honest, in my opinion. We went over to the armor side of post, and we got to experience all the fun stuff armor gets to do, and simulated strikers and tanks.
In the CCTT.
Yep. And it's a lot of fun. Made me second guess, why infantry wasn't doing the cool stuff, but no, it's great. Mounted Maneuver Week, you'll get exposure to Bradleys and strikers. You'll do a little quick mission in Bradleys. At least we did. So we all hopped in a Bradley. We assaulted this like little compound, called it a day, and then like I said, the Sims, a lot of fun, so much fun.
Yeah, so basically, for those of you who are not familiar with the CCTT, it's basically like a simulator, but you're inside of what a real Bradley or striker would look like.
Yep.
You have someone in the driver's seat, you have someone in the command seat, the gunner seat, and there's screens all around you, and you could literally see the other people, their vehicles, and you can pop out of the thing. You got screens all around you there. And you just conduct missions in a simulated environment as if you were doing it in real life.
Yeah.
And knowing, I've done it in both simulator and real life, it's pretty cool. It's pretty accurate.
Yeah. I will say for the striker one, it's just like a wooden frame of what a striker would be. But but the back where the dismounts are, everyone's just on a computer, and to them it's basically kind of like a video game. But getting people not to shoot each other on it is almost a bridge too far.
You get a bunch of infantry cats together and they all become children.
Yeah, it really is.
All right, what can you tell me about urban ops?
So yeah, before stepping off to urban ops, you'll have a day where your cadre are walking you through, entering and clearing a room using glass houses. So you get the, basics of it before you get out there. And then you'll go out to the training area, and then they have a huge, really nice training site that's like a small town, really. It's got fake police station, houses, all this stuff. And you'll do some training out there, some missions where you assault the town and you do a raid. And then you'll go to do the sim rounds. Mm-hmm. And, 2 unfortunate people will be picked to be the bad guys and go into the room and hide behind a barrier and then shoot your buddies as they come in. So,
surprise.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
And then after you do the blanks and then the sim rounds, then you move into the platoon live fire.
Mm-hmm. So, honestly, one of the best weeks in IBOLC. When I did mine, it was right before holiday block leave.
Nice.
It was cold. It was wet. It was miserable, but it was a lot of fun. Another time where I would recommend being in that leadership position, even though it is all, pretty scripted, you still get to see, what goes into that planning and controlling those elements like your maneuver squads and your weapon squad. And
yeah, you mentioned it's pretty scripted. Does that mean you don't do an op board for this phase?
No, we still did an op board, even though, you don't really get to pick which way you're going to attack the trench and breach. You still got to give an op order.
Is it graded?
At my time, no, it wasn't. Okay. It wasn't graded. We only had one graded op order.
Oh man! At Armor Bullock, we had multiple op boards. Classroom, we had graded ones there, and then we had another graded one in the field. And we actually did plan everything, and then had to execute the plan.
Yeah.
And then we did another non-graded op board when it was force on force.
Yeah.
It was kind of interesting. So, did you have any kind of exams or written tests you had to do in addition to the op board?
Yeah. So at the very end, there's a comprehensive exam, and that's going to cover some of the basics of the infantry that you should know prior to going to your unit.
So then moving on, we have the Leader Forge. What is that?
I don't know where on Fort Moore they take you, but it's the swampiest part. And it was kind of miserable, to be honest, in the winter doing Leader's Forge. It was cold. It sucked. You were wet. So yeah, Leader's Forge, culminating event during your time at IBOLC. and it's basically, in my experience, it was similar to a platoon ops 2. So you're going to be doing platoon missions, and at the end, you'll have a culminating company attack on the urban ops town.
Nice.
So that was cool. It was a nice exposure to see how a infantry company would kind of tackle that problem, and then how the platoons would work together. That was actually a lot of fun. So once that's over, you'll clean up the training area, and then you'll get a couple hours of rest, and then you'll start your 12-mile ruck to Honor Hill.
12-ish miles.
12-ish. Some guys who had their Garmin's on clocked ours at 16 miles, so just be prepared.
And then what's at that hill you mentioned?
Yeah, so Honor Hill, that's where you'll receive your blue cord,
Oh, nice.
and there'll be a bonfire, and there's just a ceremony for getting your blue cord.
If you're finding this information useful, then consider subscribing to the OCOL podcast for more officer-related content. So we're going to get to follow-on courses, but before we do that, can you tell me about some of the things that got people dropped or recycled from IBOLC?
Yeah, so top things I saw were things medically, getting hurt, because this is definitely a course where some people will get hurt. And then the second thing would be some people struggled physically with the requirements of passing. One thing that got a lot of people was the 5-mile run. These field weeks, you're not coming home every day. You're most likely going to stay out there.
And basically what you're saying too, the 5-mile, you're not running it fresh. Like you're doing it after or like in between all this training, right?
Yes. So you'll come out of, let's say, platoon ops, and then the next week, probably on a Monday, you're going to run a 5-mile. So not a lot of like great recovery going on there. So
Okay. And then I heard the third reason that people get dropped or recycled is land nav.
land nav can be challenging. We had a couple people get no-good for it and get recycled. But really, it's just about, trusting your instincts when you're out there, and then don't cheat. Don't.
Integrity violations and all that.
Integrity violations. Don't cheat on it. It's not worth it.
All right, so up next, we're going to talk about follow-on courses that you can get after IBOLC. Can you tell me about some of the things you might get if you're going to like an SBCT, IBCT, ABCT, or Airborne IBCT?
Sure. So once you graduate IBOLC, we got put into a schools platoon. Some of us had Airborne and Ranger immediately following graduation from IBOLC. Some of us waited a couple months. And then if you're going to a Striker Brigade combat team, then you'll go to, Striker's Leader course. If you're going to, an ABCT, you'll go to Bradley Leader course. So just to get you familiarized with those platforms before you get there, which is super beneficial. I will say, at my time at IBOLC, not everyone went.
Oh, okay.
You pretty much got your chance at Ranger and Airborne, and then you would have to get some sort of approval from your gaining unit to go to SLC and Bradley Leader course.
So then, Nick, do you have any recommendations to give to individuals that are getting ready to go to IBOLC?
Yeah, so very first one, and the primary reason people fail is they're not showing up in shape. Showing up in shape is, going to prevent those injuries. Like I said, you're going to spend a majority of the time in the field, sleeping out there, no gym, So that is not the time to try to get in shape. You need to come ready.
So you're spending a lot of the time in the field. Do you get weekends off?
You do. So we got weekends off. When you come back from the field, it's not a super quick turnaround. Like, if you're lucky enough to bus back. If you bus back, you get off the bus, you're going to be there for hours still, turning in weapons, cleaning weapons, turning them in. For some reason, it takes forever to turn in weapons. And so Friday nights are always going to be late nights, but you'll still have Saturday and Sunday off. So
Nice.
Which is always nice. My recommendation for that, rest, recover, use that time to go to the gym, use that time to run, because your time to do that is limited there.
Do you have any product recommendations or things that would help you in those field or upward phases?
Yeah, so like I said, a battle board is going to help you during that upward time with your overlays and keeping things organized. Good stuff to have when you're out in the field doing platoon ops would be, 9-line card for your medic, and a quick call for fire card little cheat sheet.
And yeah, obviously, like you'd recommend having these laminated. Did you end up like buying a laminator yourself, or know anybody that had one that you could get all this stuff like coated in plastic so it'll be usable more than once in the field?
Yeah, so my buddy actually had one, super useful. Um, there are stores around Fort Moore that will have laminated shells as well.
Oh, cool.
Yep. So they won't be laid out the way you want them to or works best for you, but they are pretty handy to have.
So another recommendation that I saw on the IBOLC website was the reading list. So I'll just post that on the screen real quick if you want to take a screenshot. I've got these linked down in the description as well. And then another recommendation you had on the notes is like something about your Ranger packing list.
Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of stuff on that Ranger packing list that you're not going to have, or you're just going to want fresh for Ranger. And I would say, better to piece that stuff together over time, because once you graduate IBOLC, you might have a quick turnaround to go to Ranger right away. And if you haven't looked, Ranger packing list is not cheap, and getting everything the way it's supposed to be is going to cost you some money. There are some stores nearby Fort Moore. I know Troops is one of them, a military surplus.
Yeah, there's the Troops, Commandos, and Ranger Joes.
Yep.
My recommendation would be like don't wait till the very end, because everyone's gonna wait until the end, and then everyone's gonna be fighting for the same pre-built packing list.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. So they have pre-built, pre-made packing lists that you can get if you're in a pinch, or if you just don't want to take the time to go down the list yourself and buy it all yourself. But they're pretty useful. So one last recommendation is, if there's ever an opportunity where there's a gap in leadership, like you'll have a cycle of who's going to be in what position and when. But if there's ever a gap, I would say definitely volunteer for that leadership position, especially if it's in the field. That way you can get another rep in at doing, an ambush or raid or, reactive contact, whatever it is. Getting that extra rep in is going to be beneficial moving forward too.
yeah, talking about leadership roles, do you have any kind of like peer evals or anything like that?
We did have peer evals about halfway through the course, and then at the end is when we did ours. They didn't drop you from the course if you got bad peer evals. Be honest, and there's a way to be professional about it too. And just take it on the chin. If you get some development comments, just be professional and take it for what it is, and try and grow.
So then, do you get these like handwritten peer evals back? Do you like know who wrote what?
So in our case, we didn't know who wrote what. It's anonymous.
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly.
You'll know.
Yeah, you'll see.
So that's pretty much it for IBOLC. If you want to see a playlist on some of the follow-on schools that you might attend after graduation, then check out this playlist I got right here.